right. Hello and welcome, everybody who is coming into the room right now. Welcome to the People Strategy for the Future of Work virtual conference. This is session number 4 for the day, and we are going to be talking about all for one and one for all, how to develop leaders at all levels with Tina Robinson. Now, Tina is the CEO of WorkJoy. And she has directed global change management initiatives. She overhauls HR functions, transforms team cultures. She's done a lot, and she's worked with organizations such as PwC, Toyota, Fabletics, and SAP. So, with that, Tina, would you like to take it away?
I would, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
All
And for
right.
everybody who is in our room, if you are in here in the chat, I've asked a question. Where are you joining from, and what coffee are you drinking this morning? So when you get a chance, pop in the chat there and ask any questions that you want throughout the session. We will be monitoring them.
Just making sure you can see one screen, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. It's the joy of having two screens at your home computer. So, and I have chat open as well. So hello. Happy Friday. Thank you to everybody for joining us on a Friday morning from wherever you are. Romania, it's already happy hour there, and probably dinner time. I'm seeing McKinney moved on from hibiscus tea to orange mango sparkling water. Well, ice butter pecan coffee in Boston. Boston knows their coffee. I don't think I've ever seen as many donut places as I have in Boston, maybe in Maine.
Janelle's
Wonderful.
drinking delicious coffee right now.
I am not having any coffee right now, although I probably could use some. So let's go ahead. First of all, a huge thank you to everybody at Engagedly for hosting this virtual conference, for being who they are. Huge thanks to Jacqueline and Shri and the whole team there. What a great solution. What a great conference. So big thanks to everybody. I'm going to start off with a warning, and you're probably thinking, what is this crazy lady doing? Leadership development is a big topic. We could spend an entire conference on it and not touch 10% of it. So today, in the limited time that we have, we are going to talk about an approach with 3 key components. Each of those components is actually worthy of its own workshop and a much deeper conversation. I will be sharing all of my information. If you want to start talking about those and having deeper conversations, totally reach out. The purpose of today is to share a framework and some starting points. And I know that most of you on the call, if not all of you, are trying to invest in your leaders and maybe even invest in yourself as a leader with limited time, limited resources, limited support, and limited capacity. So think of today as a jumping off point, but maybe we won't answer all of your questions, but that might just lead to future workshops. What are we going to talk about? We're going to do some upfront logistics, because there's always logistics in a virtual conference. I'll do a quick intro to build on what Jacqueline shared. We'll talk about what leadership is. We'll talk about this framework that I alluded to that helps us reimagine how to invest in our leaders. I'll leave you with some takeaways. I'll leave you with some action items. And throughout, I encourage you to use chat to ask questions. Probably another warning is that this is very chat focused. So I am going to be leaning into the audience to ask you some questions. I get tired of hearing my own voice, and it's really nice to hear other voices, even if they're just words on a screen. Okay, so a few upfront logistics. First thing, I love LinkedIn. It is my only social media. I wish I could say I have fallen in love with TikTok or the gram, but right now it's LinkedIn. So really super simple QRC. If you want to just scan this, it'll take you right to my site and you can just link with me right away. I'll show this a little bit later too. You can also find me under WorkJoy or Tina Schust Robinson. Again, you'll have all that. I had mentioned we're not going to get to everything today. So this is a link, a QR code that goes directly to my website and a contact form. Just reach out to me. I am very happy to answer questions and we can set up some time to talk. This is an important topic for me. It's an important topic for you. So I want to make it as easy as possible for you to reach out. All right, a few guiding principles. We learn by doing, so you'll be doing. I'm going to ask you some reflection questions. I'm going to ask you to share in chat. You'll be sharing in chat because we learn from each other. We like our learning to be relevant, so I'm going to be making it as real as possible using some real life examples. We're going to mix it up because attention spans are short, even for a 50-minute virtual webinar. We're going to keep it lively, keep it moving. It's Friday, so I hope we can laugh. I hope we can have some fun. As you can tell by what's on my bookshelf here, I don't take myself that seriously. And yes, if you see my little Velma head bobble thing, I have been accused of being Velma from Scooby-Doo. And we will end on time. And the goal is to end about 9:20 California time, 11:20 Chicago time. You can fill in all of the other time zones. Okay. Are you ready? If you're ready, let me know in chat. Let's warm up our chat fingers. Let me know if you're ready. Thumbs up, smiley face, ready. Whatever icon you want to use. There we go. I'm seeing some people that I know here. Yay. Okay. Just guess what? Even if you're not ready, I'm going to keep going. So first of all, who am I? This is me. I have been playing at what I call the intersection of humans and work for more than 20 years. And that number keeps creeping up year after year somehow. As Jacqueline said, I've been doing this in-house. Oh, Jill says, love the color coordinated books. I'll let you know something. It looks really pretty for the love of whatever deity you believe in. I cannot find any books now. So they're pretty, but unless I remember if a book is blue or yellow or red, I can't find it. So I am a living example of form versus function. So I can be your cautionary tale, but thank you, Jill. So I founded WorkJoy after a lot of years in the corporate space because I wanted to focus on the work that brought me the most joy. And that includes really what we're going to talk about today, investing in humans one-on-one, mostly through coaching, one-to-many, through training, through speaking, through offsites, and then one-to-all, helping organizations design and support talent programs. I have been a part-time faculty member at local universities, including Loyola Marymount. I currently am a coach for executive MBAs at UCLA Anderson. I love to talk if you're not getting that vibe already. I'm going to be speaking at the upcoming SHRM conferences. So if anybody is going to Las Vegas next month or Chicago in June, give me a shout out in chat and it'd be fun to try to coordinate. I was honored to be named to Engagedly's top 100 influencers for 2023. That was such a thrill. I grew up on the East Coast, so you'll see some East Coast and Midwest schools in there, and I live here in Los Angeles. Again, there is a code to link to me on LinkedIn. And as we go along, any questions, just put that in. Why am I here? I'm here because leadership development is important and getting leadership right matters. We've all read the research. We know these studies. We know that leaders directly affect engagement. We know that engagement continues to be a challenge. We know that many of our employees right now are seeking a new job. We might be seeking new jobs as we sit here on this webinar. Not many employees describe their organization as a great place to work. We know that leaders play a role in this. We leave organizations because of leaders. We stick around because of our leaders. And each of us, for better or for worse, has been shaped by leaders in our lives. And based on all of my years doing this, leadership development is ripe for reimagining. So in chat, again, I warned you, it was a chat-heavy discussion. Why are you here? What made you want to come to this webinar? And a follow-up question to that might be, what's important for you when it comes to leadership development? Anthony, who is a longtime colleague, says he's here because of me. So that was very sweet. So Anthony, thank you. He's also out here in Los Angeles. Alignment between departments. What else? Managing change. Yeah. And helping our leaders be better equipped to manage change. I think that's really good. Scaling leadership development. I love that. Yep. Making sure leaders are challenged and can still grow. This idea of how do we invest in our leaders, oftentimes when we are a department of one or a really small department or don't have the resources to do it. And we will absolutely be talking about that today. So, what is leadership? Seems like a simple question, but there are a lot of definitions out there. I love this one. This is a book that I have been reading for a very long time. And I know some of you on the call probably know this book as well. It's The Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner. And what I love about how they look at leadership is that they say leadership is an observable pattern of practices and behaviors that can be learned. They do not believe that you're born as a leader. They believe that leadership is something that can be taught and can be learned and can be strengthened and honed. And I think that's really important because this approach to leadership development means anybody who has accepted the role of leading others can be taught how to do it better. So, as leadership development practitioners, as talent practitioners, as HR practitioners, as learning and development practitioners, we throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. We wait to see what sticks. We hope that we can fix some things. Anybody ever feel like this? That sometimes in the work that you do, you're just testing a lot of things? This is a very American phrase, to throw spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Hey, looks like that worked. Hey, looks like that worked. Anybody ever try this? I'm sure some of you have. Here is some of the spaghetti that I've thrown at the wall and I've heard thrown. Hey, let's just have HR teach employees how to give feedback. Hey, our leaders are smart. They'll figure it out. Hey, we have working managers here. We don't need to teach them how to be better leaders because they're working managers. Using training as a fix-all for everything. Oh, our leaders can't communicate? Let's give them communication training. The challenge of buying versus building leaders. If you have leadership openings in your organization, are you investing in people who are already there to help them move up into those roles, or do you go to the open market? So I'm looking at some of the comments here. Anthony says, yeah, we justify a lot of things by throwing it under the umbrella of leadership development. Yeah, we try things that may or may not work, all in the spirit of working with our leaders. We also had somebody say that there have been some resignations lately, in big part because of their leaders. And so, hey, we can't afford to lose great people, especially in an economy that makes it tough to refill those open headcount. So, how do we make sure that our leaders aren't going to lead to more resignations? We want our leaders supporting retention. We want our leaders to be one of the reasons people think that this is a great place to work. I also like this quote: leadership development is a lifetime journey, not a quick trip. Investing in your leaders is something that you're going to be spending a lot of time on, as, again, HR or talent professionals. And as leaders ourselves, investing in ourselves is something that we're going to be doing throughout our professional lives. Okay, so here's my model for leadership investment, and I'm calling it leadership investment and not just development. It's the idea of supporting leaders in multiple ways. First of all, one-to-one, investing in leaders through coaching and through mentoring. And we're going to talk a little bit more about coaching today. Investing in leaders in a one-to-group or one-to-many fashion. And that's often through skill building, training, classroom settings, self-study, off-sites, anytime you bring a group of leaders together to help them develop their skills. And then one-to-all. This is making sure that the programs and processes in your organization remember the leaders and incorporate leaders and reflect leaders. Okay, so this is the framework. Another way of thinking about it is imagining different sort of development rings around your leaders. Each of these differing in scale and scope. So the one-to-one is the closest to your leaders, one-to-group a little bit farther out, one-to-all absolutely affecting your leaders, but they're also affecting other people as well. Okay, let me pause here. Just remind you that if you have any questions, you can include those in the chat and I will do my best to answer. It looks like we have a pretty, not that large of a group on, so we can totally have Q&A as we go. Okay, so we're going to start with this one-to-one approach to leadership development. Here's the thing, and I'm going to go back a slide. You may not be able to do all of these things for your leaders. You might only be able to pick one of these. That's okay. This framework gives you permission to start somewhere. Maybe you say, gosh, we just don't have the budget right now to hire coaches for our leaders. That's okay. Maybe you're going to go more to one-to-all. Maybe you say, hey, we want to use coaching in combination with that one-to-group, coaching in combination with that skill building training. Great. Maybe you want to use some of your processes to reinforce what leaders might be learning in their training. So just because we have three circles here doesn't mean you have to use them all. Pick where you want to start. Prioritize based on your interest, in your capacity, in what your leaders need, and what your executives will support. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So we're going to start with one-to-one. Now, this is coaching. It's also mentoring. It's anytime a leader is working one-on-one with somebody. So we're going to focus today on coaching. And I'm going to ask you in chat, who wants to share, how do you define coaching? So Jacqueline says, coaching is relying on another individual to hold you accountable and guide you on a set of goals. Love that. Good. Coaches ask questions to open conversations and go deeper. Love that too. Really good. All right, let's take a look at how the International Coaching Federation, ICF, some of you may have heard of that acronym, how they define coaching. And they call it partnering with leaders in a creative process that inspires them to maximize their potential. What I have found is that coaching is a program, coaching is a process, and coaching is a mindset. Your manager might use coaching techniques when working with you. We would love our leaders to be coaches for their teams. So coaching is a skill set, it's a process, it can be a program in your organization, but it's also a mindset. And that mindset means I am asking questions. I am asking questions to bring out the best in this other person. I'm asking questions, as Yvonne says, to open conversations and to go deeper. So what kinds of questions might coaching ask your leaders? This is just a starting point. What kind of leader do you want to be? What's your aspirational vision for yourself as a leader? What's the gap that you found? The gap between where you are today as a leader and where you want to be, where the organization needs you to be, where you want to be. How are you showing up to others? What do you want to change about that? How do you define success as a leader? And what are some of your development goals? Coaching ideally is goal focused. Where do you want to go? What's important to you? Let's create a path for you to get there. So, coaching can launch a leadership investment journey, and it can also fuel the journey. And what I have found is that coaching gives leaders permission to invest in themselves. I've had a lot of leaders tell me, oh my gosh, once every 2 weeks, I just focus on me. What a gift. Even if it's the only hour in 2 weeks that I focus on me, what an investment. Coaching provides a safe space to learn and explore. It can also remove barriers to learning because it sort of personalizes the learning, which is why using coaching in combination with skill building can be really effective. So, has anybody worked with a coach before? Let me know in chat. Give me a thumbs up or a smiley face or a yes if you have actually worked with a coach before.
Seems like there's not a lot of people.
Not a lot of people. I see one person. That's okay. It's also early or it's late if you're in other time zones. Excellent. So I'm going to give you a reflection to start off with, and I'm going to give it about 30 seconds, and I'll sit here and time it. But I want you to think about, and if you have a place to take notes, this is a great time to jot down some words. Reflect on your personal experience with coaching and the benefits you've seen, and maybe even benefits that you've wondered about if you haven't experienced coaching hands on. Think about a leader in your organization who might benefit from coaching. And maybe that leader is you. And then what goals you would like that leader to achieve, what you would like coaching to produce, where you want the leader to get to as a result of coaching. And like I said, I'll go ahead and give you about 30 seconds to think about this. And then we will be sharing. So, good time to take some notes so that we can then come back together and you can share some of your ideas. So, who would like to share? Who's thinking of a leader in their organization? You don't have to name names, but what you might want that leader to get out of coaching. Let's have somebody share in chat.
If you want, I can take anybody off mute as well and allow them to talk.
Oh, great. Okay. Let us know if you want to share something out loud. So Cecilia says, one of my leaders needs to learn to let their direct managers manage. Okay, so this is a leader who's managing other managers. Ah, and this leader is not letting those managers step up to become leaders themselves. Ooh, that's a really good one. And that's a perfect opportunity for coaching, as well as working with a mentor, somebody who's really good at being that leader of other leaders. But yeah, that's a little bit of a harder thing to teach in training. So good opportunity for some one-on-one support there. If there's a leader who applies coaching techniques and that she listens to me, supports me, encourages me to improve my skills. That's really good. So you're noticing your own leader use coaching techniques, which is really inquiry and helping somebody go deeper. That's wonderful. Hold on to that leader. All right. So a place to start, sort of a little bit of taking this concept and moving it into action. I'm going to encourage you to pilot coaching in your organization. Pick one leader who will optimize coaching. Maybe this leader has some past experience, but you know that they will get the most out of it. when it comes to selecting a coach, leaning into your community, leaning into your network for referrals is a great place to start. I do coaching. I do a lot of coaching, and I will tell you there are a lot of people out there doing coaching. And so getting some referrals, finding out from trusted colleagues who they have worked with is a good place to start. I am happy to talk with you. And I'm always happy to talk to you about coaching needs in your org and to refer people within my own network. Identify some specific behaviors that you would like this leader to address. Now, keep in mind, the leader might come up with other areas, but this can be a co creation process. Evaluate how this leader is showing up, but sort of pre and post coaching. Maybe you've done a 360 with this leader. Maybe you're going to get some just conversations going with stakeholders of this leader before and after the coaching. But you want to see what behaviors are changing, what results are there after the coaching. Gather feedback throughout the process from stakeholders in this leader's world. And then guess what? Try it again. Try it again with a different leader, maybe a different coach, but keep piloting it. Questions about investing in leaders one-on-one. We talked super high level.
Is there would you put an emphasis on technical skills versus personal, other types of soft skills that a leader would need to know for this practice?
That's a really good question. Coaching tends to lend itself best to, and I hate the word soft skills because we all know on this call that the soft skills are the hard ones, right? Um, but it tends to work well with behaviors and competencies. When it comes to technical skills, like I need to learn how to code in Java, or I need to learn Excel better. That tends to lean a little bit more towards skill building.
Mhm. Okay. Okay.
Now, could a coach also be a skill builder, and could there be sort of a hybrid a little bit? Absolutely.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's not quite the at the heart of what coaching can deliver. Anthony in the chat says, "Isn't coaching super expensive?" Coaching will range in fees, and so that's a great question. You will see fees all across the board. If anybody wants to talk about sort of what fee structures might look like, I'm happy to do that offline, and I'll give you the ranges that I've seen. But a lot of it depends on the scope, on the level of the leader, on the length of the program, and all of those things are negotiable.
Mhm.
Great question. So yes, it will cost money, but think about the ROI. If you have a leader who is better able to lead other managers and is able to invest in those managers, and those managers don't leave your organization, and those managers in turn are better leaders for their people, how much is that worth to you? Because the price of that retention, of that engagement, might make the coaching look like an incredibly super cheap bargain. Great questions. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about, and I'm keeping an eye on time here, and we're going to move a little faster here. One to group. So one to group is training, skill building. Excuse me. And we know the truth. All of us on this call have a hand in training in some way. It's easier said than done. It is absolutely not a quick fix. And yet it tends to be the easy answer to everything. And we're told all the time by researchers, these are just a few examples, what skills leaders must demonstrate, what skills leaders need the most, the core skills, the fundamental skills, the top skills. This is in addition to what your own organizations prioritize and value. And so, as training professionals, as learning and development professionals, talent professionals, HR professionals, we're constantly being asked, how can I best invest in the skills of my leaders? But how do you teach leaders things like learning agility? How do you teach leaders how to inspire others? How do you teach leaders how to think analytically? This is tough. And I don't have easy answers here for it. Is it possible to do this? Yes. This usually is in combination with coaching and through other processes. So here are some helpful hints. When looking at the must-have lists of skills, ask yourself first, why is this skill important in our organization? So if we go back and we look at skills like self-awareness, why is self-awareness important? Is it important in our organization? How important is it? What behaviors make up this skill? Leaders who are good at this, how do they show up? What are they doing? And how can leaders best learn this skill? Is this in a classroom? Is it self-study? Is it online? Is it in person? Is it having a coach? Is it having a mentor? We learn skills in a lot of different ways. Then, how can we deliver this skill building? Who should receive it and when should we deliver it? You're starting to get into some of those tactics. So, I'm going to give you an example of communication, an easy one that's on almost everybody's top list, right? So, some of the behaviors that make up communication, which makes communication training rather complicated, is that all of these things are behaviors that can be lumped into communication and probably others. Knowing my own communication style, adapting to the styles of others, being able to influence, valuing differences, writing, presenting, active listening, speaking. All of those are behaviors that go under communication. All of these represent skill sets that we would like our leaders to use. It's our job to start prioritizing these, to figure out what is most important for us. So I'm going to give you, again, another 30 seconds to take some notes here. And I will practice with self awareness, which tends to be a must have leadership skill in most studies, most surveys. Think about, why is this skill important in your behavior? I mean, in your organization. What does self awareness look like in leaders? What behaviors do you see? How do you demonstrate self awareness? How do you think leaders can best learn this? If you had to learn how to be more self aware, how would you do that? Would you work with a coach? Would you want a mentor? Would you want to be reading? Would you want to listen to blogs? Would you want to have a class? And how have you tried to teach this or successfully taught this skill set, this competency? So take a few seconds, think about that, and then we'll ask you to share. Okay, so who would like to share? I would love to hear in chat if you have tried to teach leaders to be more self aware and how that went for you. And if you haven't tried, is it something that's important? Is that an important skill that you want leaders in your organization to demonstrate?
I think this is a really hard one because this requires a lot of self-reflection on our own processes, right? And we first have to ask that question, are we self-aware? Are we there?
Yeah. And self-awareness is most of us think we're self-aware, but there's actually been some interesting research that shows that most people, when you really push them against a definition of self-aware, are not. Anthony says he likes it when he works with leaders on 360s and he realizes just then how self-aware people are or aren't. So that's a great example of, hey, how well do you know yourself? Do you know how you show up to others? Janelle says, I think it's important to be self-aware. We need to be self-aware to begin to understand where other people are coming from. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. You really can't get good at EQ until you get to know yourself. And yet, to Jacqueline's point, it's really hard to teach. And I like what Juliet says, to reinforce it, we help each other to learn about ourselves. So yeah, a lot of this comes from just getting good at sharing. A lot of this comes from getting comfortable giving and receiving feedback. Hard to be self-aware if nobody in the organization is comfortable giving you feedback because they don't know how to give feedback or
Hmm.
you don't know how to ask for feedback. So the reason I'm sharing this is that training is an easy answer for how to invest in leaders, but it's deceptively challenging and may not get you the results that you need unless you think about it a little bit more in depth. And remember that coaching in partnership with training can really fuel results because coaching can reinforce and personalize the learning that leaders get from their skill building. So, a few suggestions here. Pilot this, pick a skill, pick a competency, look at some of those research studies, think about what's important in your organization. Think about one skill set, a competency that's critical to success. Identify the behaviors. We just looked at communication. There were 8, 9, 10 different behaviors that went into that. How do you teach that? Think about delivery. Is this going to be with internal instructors or external? Are you going to bring somebody in from the outside or do you have somebody already in house? Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be self study? Is it going to be classroom? All of those are possibilities. And yeah, different costs for those. But again, you're thinking about the ROI. If you really want leaders to learn this behavior, it's better to have fewer prioritized behaviors and skills that you're teaching and really double down on those rather than have a library of 87 different skills, even if that costs less money. Measure, sort of similar to coaching. How are leaders showing up before? How are they showing up after? How are they demonstrating what they've learned? And then try it again. Okay. Last one is one to all. This is one of my favorites, but you can tell they're getting sort of progressively harder. So there are talent lifecycle processes that affect your leaders. These are just a few of them. I probably missed some in here, but let's take a look at these. Recruiting and selection. When we put our leader investment hat on, are you interviewing leaders for specific behaviors, for specific competencies? If you want directors who are able to invest in the managers that report to them, are you interviewing for that? Are you making sure that the talent you're getting in the door has the behaviors and the skills that you need, rather than hoping that you can teach them once they're in? Onboarding. How are you integrating leaders into your organization? Do you have a structured approach? And on the other side of that, what role are the leaders playing in the onboarding of team members? Huge opportunity to bring leaders into the onboarding process. Performance management, goal setting. How are you holding leaders accountable for demonstrating those leadership behaviors that we just talked about? If you're not holding leaders accountable for demonstrating certain behaviors and skills, they probably won't demonstrate them as consistently or as frequently or as effectively. Do your leaders have development plans? How do you prepare leaders for larger or new roles? Which is a big part of succession. We could almost flip flop succession and development. How are you setting leaders up for success? How are you identifying leaders with the potential to step in to new roles, roles that don't even exist? And then total rewards. How are you motivating leaders financially? How are you offering incentives? How are you retaining leaders through total rewards? And Anthony, I see your question and I'll answer that in just a second. I just want to get through this and make sure we have enough time because that sounds like a good sort of wrap up question. Um, there are a lot of different ways that you can bring a leader focus into these processes or look at processes and programs through a leadership investment lens. First and foremost, have a leadership competency model. What are the behaviors that you expect of leaders in your organization? That might be level driven, You might expect different things from frontline versus senior. Have interview guides when interviewing leader candidates. Make sure that the people interviewing know to ask about certain skills and behaviors and experiences. Have a structured leader integration plan. This is something that I've done with a lot of clients. Some 30, 60, 90-day goals, some defined roles and responsibilities. Who is going to help this leader get to know our culture, get to know what's happening, identify opportunities? We've talked about coaching. We didn't talk about mentoring. That's worthy of its own workshop. But again, looking at investing one-on-one in leaders that have been identified as successors, that have been identified as high potential as part of talent reviews. How are you investing in those leaders to make sure they not only stick around, but they keep growing and learning so that when you need them to step into a specific role, they're ready? And then some leader specific incentives. It doesn't always have to be cash in the bank. It could be being able to go to conferences. It might be a sabbatical. It might be time. It might be opportunities. It might be the ability to invest in their teams, a budget to do team building. So I'm curious, in chat, as we start to move on to our last section, what are you doing for your leaders? Anybody doing any of these things here? IDPs, excellent. Individual development plans, love that. A huge starting point. Not all organizations do them, even though I think they should. Love me a good IDP.
Yeah, just shameless plug. We built that into Engagedly. So we have the tool to do the IDP now, which connects them to the goals. And so we're able to see immediately what their goals are and if it aligns to their IDP.
And that's a really good point. Yeah, a plug for Engagedly. Engagedly brings a lot of these things together. So if you have the Engagedly platform, you have the infrastructure to be able to do a lot of these things. So mentoring, feedback, individual listening spaces, love all that. So I'm going to move on a little quickly here and we're going to skip our last chat, but I want you to start thinking about a process in your organization that could be redesigned with leaders in mind. Maybe you want to look at how you're recruiting. Maybe you want to look at how you are developing leaders. Maybe you're looking at comp. Maybe you're looking at performance management or goal setting. But think about a process that you could bring that leader focus to and how not only leaders will benefit, but their team members and the organization overall. Last thing, and this how to turn this into action is, again, try it. Get the support that you need, but experiment. Start small. Maybe it's as simple as an interview guide for leaders that's very competency based. Maybe it's better optimizing some of the Engagedly tools. So to wrap up, and I'm keeping an eye on time here, another quote from the Leadership Challenge. It's just this idea that as leaders, we can all get better. We can do better. Leadership is all about the growth mindset. We just need to challenge ourselves. We need to get the support that we need, and we have to practice. And a lot of the tools and techniques and framework that we shared here helps leaders do this. It provides support, it gives them opportunities to practice, and it holds them accountable. So, a little bit of a summary here. Leadership is a definable set of skills and activities. It can be learned and it can be taught. The one-to-one, the one-to-many, the one-to-all starts with one-to-one, coaching, mentoring, very tangible support for leaders, moving into group-based skill building, group-based events, group-based workshops. And then one-to-all is reimagining some of those larger programs and processes. My gift to all of you is I just shared a ton of information. Some of you are going, and Anthony even said, hey, our organization needs a lot of this. How do I even know where to start? And that would be a great follow-up question. My gift to all of you for being on this call today, reach out to me, send me a note. You can contact me directly through my website with that QR code. We'll talk and we'll figure out what's going on. You will get all of these slides. In exchange, I would love your feedback. As speakers, we rely on feedback to know what we could do better. And I take your feedback extremely seriously. So if you're able to scan this little QR code, it's going to take you to a few very simple questions asking how I did today, and asking you to provide some comments. And boom, if you carry that through to the end, you will get a copy of today's slides.
Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
Tina, so much for everything today. You have been very helpful. I know there's a lot of people in our chat who have really gained a lot of information from this. And like Tina said, she's got the QR code for you to download the slides. We also will be sending everything out via email. So make sure that you have Engagedly in your safe sender list and look in your spam folder just in case. For our next session now, I'm going to share my screen just real quick. We have just finished All for One and One for All. We are going to have the next session at 11:30, Difficult Conversations, a Manager's Guide. This one I'm really excited about, so hop on over to that one. And don't forget, for every session you attend, you get another entry to win a Stanley mug today. Thank you everyone for attending, and we hope you have a really great day. Goodbye.